Hi, AfterBuzzers. You're watching the Black Mirror After Show, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, hello, hello. I feel like I'm back in 1996. Hey! We're not here. Welcome to the Black Mirror After Show, Season 3, Episode 1, Nosedive. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And here are my fellow co-hosts.
Thanks, Adrian.
Of course.
I'm Miaira Jennings. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Miaira Jennings.
And I'm Steve Kaufmann. You can find me on Twitter almost exclusively at Steve Kaufmann. That is Kauf.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so gosh, feels like Junipero right now. First thoughts. Nosedive.
Ooh. I actually heard recently that in Canada that this wasn't listed as the first episode on
really?
Netflix. Briefly, it was like a glitch that they fixed.
Oh, okay.
But it was episode 4, San Junipero, was listed as the first one.
As the first one, okay.
As the very first one. So I prefer this, that if it's going to be a more American series,
Yeah.
Right.
as we would understand it, that you start with the one with Bryce Dallas Howard, written by Rashida Jones.
Yeah, the American.
Based in like the American one.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think it was so relevant to our society, so great start to the season.
It made me slightly uncomfortable because I was like, I guess I kind of do that. I post random pictures that mean nothing, and keep checking my phone for likes. But it was very much for me a little off. I guess not off-putting, but it just kind of like threw me for a bit that it was so American. I was expecting some type of British accent somewhere. I was expecting Bryce Dallas Howard to like take a trip to London, which we kind of do get in the second episode.
Yeah.
So for it for a second, it just didn't feel like Black Mirror, and maybe that's because I associate so much with it being a British television show. Even when they did the Christmas special where John-Kamen came in, it still felt like, okay, but I'm still in the world of Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm. I'm still watching a show on ITV Channel 4.
Exactly. So I didn't get that feeling as much. It definitely did kind of feel more like it was made for American audiences and made for especially Netflix audiences, where it has that weird type of like kind of a little too long but also condensed type feeling that I sometimes get from Netflix shows. But overall, I liked it. I'm not being like, oh, it sucked. No, it's just like it was a different feeling from what I'm used to seeing when I watch Black Mirror, but it was still a welcome feeling.
Well, and then by the end of this episode, we all got that uneasy feeling. I think what made this episode really uneasy versus a lot of the other ones is that we're like the tech, we can do that now. Like
it's too close.
It's incredibly close. It's called Sesame credits in China, and it's going to be mandatory by 2020.
Wow.
Like that's a real thing.
I didn't know
The concept?
The concept, the OS. People are doing it in China right now, and it's a couple different companies, including Alibaba, which is the main competitor to Amazon, but it's going to be mandatory and state sanctioned, and it's going to include your purchases, your pictures, your everything, and then you'll have credits, and then you can.
Well, guys, it's been great.
Nice knowing you.
I think I'm going to go get that nice cabin in the woods and chill with my cat for the rest of my life. If that's the case.
Yeah.
But this episode was directed by Joe Wright, and it starred Bryce Dallas Howard as Lacie. She's, I guess, I don't know if you call her like a go-getter, or maybe she's very ambitious in what she wants, but doesn't really know quite how to play the game or what the game really entails. Like when you see those Instagram stars, you know, you always see them in the perfect poses. You don't see the person that's like holding their legs above so they can have that perfect pose. So what were your thoughts on that? On just like the concept of everyone is essentially striving to be some type of Instagram star.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, Lacie signified the girls who are not quite there yet, I guess, in our present time. Not quite there yet, but really striving to be, really almost obsessed with it. Because she doesn't have, you know, the 5 stars or the 4.9. She's a 4.6, right? Or 4.2. She's 4.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's not at that level yet, but it's so important to her, and obviously everyone's consumed with it, but we follow her story. And I thought that was actually pretty worrisome, because I feel like I may know people like that who are very consumed in getting more popular on these platforms. So I don't know, I thought it was pretty close to home, because I know people who relate to that.
But I think this platform had existed long enough in the episode that she wasn't trying to like game a system as much. It's just like, this is my life. Like, it's the equivalent to us showing up to a party that we don't want to go to because there's business to do at that party, or you got to meet this person to be seen, and all that silly social game that we play.
But all the time.
Her world became her world. It is an actual game.
Yeah.
Like, they've gamified good behavior.
And that's a very interesting concept that I sometimes feel, especially when I am using social media platforms, of how, like, one, how much is too much information, and two, do I be myself or do I be a version of myself? Like, someone who, my Instagram is very, even though people may not even think about it, it's very much crafted. Like, it's pictures of my cat, and then pictures of me at work. And maybe, like, doing fun things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in between. There's nothing like, oh, this is me drinking this latte, or food pictures, or, just random selfies. I'm not big on selfies. But there is a structure to how I run it, which I think a lot of people do as well. There's a structure to how we run our social media platforms. And if we ended up having to live like our social media platforms, like, what is the amount of stress that causes? And I think that's kind of what you see with Lacie, where it's just like the opening shot of her jogging, and then it cuts to her trying out different laughs in the mirror. It's just like, that's, for me personally, terrifying, that I would have to constantly put on this, like, visage of happiness and this, like, perfect woman. How did you guys feel?
Well, I wanted to also bring up, how did you guys feel about the fact that after basically anyone has a conversation, they do the physical, like, all right, I'm rating you, basically asking for validation from that other person right then and there. Is that weird? Do you guys ever feel obligated to like your friends' pictures like that? Because I started thinking that in my own life, and I'm like, well, sometimes I do feel like, oh, I need to like my friends' pictures, and hopefully they like mine. But what if you could see right then and there, like, oh, I'm going to like it, I'm going to approve of what you're doing. It just seems like so much pressure all the time. And I just thought that was so interesting how they incorporated that into the story.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge part of it. Like, oh, I'm going to show you right now, I want that 5 stars.
I think we all drive Uber, or we all take Uber enough that that's a big...
Yeah.
Speaking as a former Uber driver, like, I think a lot of passengers don't know, if you're under a 4.7, which 4.7 out of 5 is still like 85%. Don't check my math. Like, that's really good for math. If you're under a 4.7 in Uber, they literally fire you.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally ostracized, like, you're literally suspended and banned from the whole thing.
Yeah. And I do, I used to do Lyft a lot, and then I did it for the first time in, like, a year and a half last night. And I was like, well, the one nice thing that's changed is I don't have to talk to everyone. Like, don't have to be so friendly anymore. Because when Lyft first started, that was the thing where, like, you wanted to keep your ratings high, and you really want to push this, like, I'm just your friend with a car. So you, like, encourage people to sit in the front and have these long conversations. And, I mean, that's actually how I got this gig at AFTERBUZZ, so I can't knock it completely. But
worked out a little bit, right?
Out. But it's also still kind of like, sometimes there are people that got in the car and I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, so that pressure of, like, friendliness and kindness, and then still it didn't even matter. There are people who would give you, like, a 4 or a 3 just because that's what they do in life. Like, it means nothing to them.
Or that 5 to them means, well,
so much.
Well, 5 to them means 100%. That means everything was 100% perfect.
Yeah.
But people don't quite.
What's your idea of perfect?
Well, eBay went away not recently, like 5 or 6 years ago. They went away from a 5-star rating system to a thumb up, thumb down system. And to give a thumbs down, you have to give a reason on eBay. And I think Uber and Lyft would adopt a rating like that if they had the staff to actually read all of it.
Yeah. But in any case, so we now live in this world where all of our worst fears of being rated 4.7 below is you're a piece of crap. And Lacie gets an opportunity. Well, she's living with her brother Ryan, who's I think a 3.8 7.
7, yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I would definitely be a 3.7 in this life. I might even be a 2.5 because I just don't have time to moderate myself that way.
I would be a 3.6, but I'd know how to get to a 3.8 if I ever needed to work at that country club.
Yeah,
where they had a giant gate that is like, you have to be a 3.8 or better to cross this threshold.
I don't know. What would you think? What do you think would be?
You know what? I found myself relating to Chester in a lot of ways, in the simple fact that I really don't. I mean, I post maybe once every 2 weeks on Instagram, so it's not that important to me. But at the same time, when I do post, I do put a lot of thought into it. So I was straddling the fence on that one. I don't know what my rating would be. I don't know, you know, because I feel like when I do post a picture, I want it to be a good one, but I'll go weeks and maybe even a month.
I only Instagram on Thursdays.
You know? Oh, really?
That's my subtle protest that I don't understand. I don't understand. Well, I do understand how it works. I just don't understand what Instagram does that other social media platforms don't do.
I just use it because I like to keep my pictures in one place, but like all of that kind of social media stuff. Like, I know it's a big push to be a part of it and be a part of the community, but I struggle with it because I'm a very private person, and I'm also a very blunt person, and I like to curse like a sailor on occasion. So I would probably fail at this type of social structure, just because I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, can I be nice when I feel like it? Can I be like grumpy when I feel like it? But we see that her brother is not striving for this, and he only gets a good rating from playing video games, which would probably be my loophole as well. And it's decided that they're both moving into different places. So she finds a place at this place called Pelican Cove.
Yes.
Pelican Cove. And in order to get the apartment, she has to be a 4.5.
Well, she can get the apartment. She can't afford it.
She can't afford it.
20% off.
Yes.
Yeah, in order to get 20% off the apartment, she had to be
4.5.
4.5. I want to say it was 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5.
Because she was a 4.2, that she could make it to a 4.5.
I think when it started, she was like a 4.1 something, 1.5. And then over the course between then,
I think she was always a solid 4.2. She
Really?
dropped below 4.2
That's right,
before
at the airport,
Right at the airport.
I thought that she got a few more points because she was getting a few more points up from
possibly
rating on my gosh, Naomi. So we discover she needs to be a 4.5 to get this apartment, and she ends up, she kind of mildly stalks her ex-best friend frenemy from high school, because the friend gave her a 4 on a picture of a latte with a perfectly bitten cookie. And so she kind of strives to be this woman who always has perfect pictures, and she's a perfect blonde and a perfect 2 and with a perfect husband with perfect teeth, perfect dog, whatever. And she posts a picture of this old doll that used to mean something to both of them, and the friend reaches out and says, hey, well, will you be my maid of honor? I know it's been probably 15 years. And she agrees, because it works out to her benefit as well to be in front of so many 4.7 and above. Because if you're a 4.7 and above, your rating counts for more. So she decides to go and do this. And what did you guys think of Naomi?
You know what? I could already tell that they weren't that close even before Chester started saying, you know, she was always mean to you, and you guys aren't even I already get that vibe. Ryan, who's Chester?
Chester's the black guy.
The guy who has the horrible rating, right?
Yeah,
poor guy, right? He couldn't even get into the building.
Well,
just because he broke up with somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what they got into, and they covered a couple other places in Black Mirror. They definitely cover it this season, but like the idea of just like social shaming and public shaming.
Yeah.
It's becoming a very prominent, scary thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But on that same note, I got the vibe that they weren't that close. And then I started thinking again, because this episode just makes you reflect a lot more than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, you know, I do know a lot of people who are really not that close friends, but you would never guess based on their Instagram photos. They'll say they're best friends, but then, like, really they're not. So it's just interesting. That's a whole different aspect to social media that a lot of us don't think about on a daily basis. Like, how do we even define our friends now? I mean, I know I've not seen a lot of people in a few years, but I would still say, oh, it's my good friend. But do we really even talk that much? Like, do we have a lot in common anymore? So I think that was a really good critique on friendship and on our definitions of relationships these days.
I'm really close with all my baristas.
Yeah.
Everyone who makes me coffee.
Super close. I mean, I think I'm pretty clear on like Facebook friends. Like, oh yeah, it seems like I actually know a lot about you from Facebook, but were we to meet face to face, it would be a reminder of, oh, I haven't seen you in 5 years, and I haven't talked to you on the phone in probably 6 years. So there is something to that of like, well, is this friendship really friendship, or is it just you ranting into a void, and I hear your rants on the other end, and go, oh, okay. I just see what's going on with you. So happy the Cubs finally won the World Series. That's great, you guys.
No, yeah.
Not the World Series, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Don't freak out on me, Chicagoans. They made it to the World Series. Be quiet. You finally got it. But yeah, so there's that kind of idea of like, just because we're checking in on each other on this platform doesn't mean we're actually friends anymore. It just means that you know what's going on in my life, and I know what's going on in your life, and even then, you know what I tell you.
Right, it's very limited.
You know my curated life.
Exactly. So we see Naomi, and I loved this. I read a review about it. I think the AV Club. It might have been the AV Club, where they talked about how like even in her video chats with Lacie, Naomi is thinking about how someone might see this. Like, she's running through the mansion and she's in a bikini, and then the next time she talks to her, she's like doing yoga. So everything is like thought out and planned. And that's the thing that really strikes me about that type of popularity, even in high school. Like, that just takes so much work, you know? So how did you guys feel about that aspect paired with Lacey's version?
I also think that played into this world too, that like there were no dark corners of this world.
Yeah.
Everything was very pastel colored. Like, this whole world was built for Instagram photos, if you will.
Exactly.
And I think they told us the name of the app is People. P-E-P.
People is the real one, the real life app.
Oh, is that a real life
It's a
app?
real thing. Yeah.
Oh no, then I'm not plugging them.
Yeah. No, I think this one is still based off the kind of idea that they introduced way back in season 1. With, I can't remember the name of the episode right off the top of my head, but with the man who, where you can rewind all your memories, and then they layered that into the Christmas special with John Hamm, where everyone's got the contacts.
They're layering that into.
It's still a part of that type of. You can see everything, and so
the mass system or the over the eye.
Yeah, the
AR.
contact that gets implanted in. So that's still, which is nice that they still incorporate the same world when they go into this like alternate universe that they have for Black Mirror. So in any case, Lacie just has an epic fail in trying to get to this wedding. Like it is called Nosedive for a reason. She goes to the airport, the flight is canceled, and she does what I think what anyone else would do.
In our world would absolutely do.
In our world of just like getting frustrated.
Nice of just
mild frustration. Is there anything you can do for me? And the woman not being helpful, and her needing 4.2, but she just lost it because she bumped into a woman, and then she fought with her brother, and then she didn't make it to the taxi on time. So now she's what, 4.1? 4.18.
Yeah.
And the woman just won't give it to her. And I've been Lacie in this moment of like, you could just give this to me.
Yeah.
I'm 0.008 off. You could have just given me cum laude college. You could have just given it to me anyway. But that kind of mindset of like, there are no favors anymore because everything is ratings based. So you don't have to be like, well, just this time. Because we can see it. It's all documented. If you let this 4.18 in, then you're going to have to let every 4.18 in. And I think that's kind of the weird type of mindset you get into when everything's ratings based.
Do you guys see any pros to that, though? Because I really didn't see, besides the few conflicts that we saw between Lacie and a few other people, and then when she met the woman on the truck or whatever, I really didn't see any negative interactions. So do you think this would actually be a positive? These ratings, not at all.
Well,
I was just thinking. I mean,
it would be incredible if you were a 4.4.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
were born of parents that were 4.8.
So you think this
Like-
signifies like privilege in certain
Yeah.
groups? It's great, but you think parts that we didn't see in this world, people are still
But it's
having
also
hard times.
opted in control as well.
And when you think about the wedding, just to jump forward and then we'll jump back, of Naomi and Paul, and how everyone had a very specific look.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had a very specific hairstyle. Everyone worked out. Everyone had, so that's the type of lifestyle that you end up having when you're living a ratings-based lifestyle. Okay, I must be as close to perfect as humanly possible. That's not to say that we aren't already kind of struggling with that today, but if you're having a bad day, like if I just get up and I'm like, I'm just gonna throw on a head wrap and I gotta go, and somebody bumped into me and I'm like, oh, sorry, but I don't really care. I get docked ratings for that.
Yeah.
Just for that one small interaction, just for not smiling at someone, you can get docked ratings. When she tried to talk to the lady in the elevator, and she was trying just a little too hard, she rated her a 3. Like that's the thing, is that you are at the mercy of whatever people feel like doing that day, and that's why I think it's negative, because we discover at the airport that just because she raised her voice a little bit, 4 people behind her docked her points. Then she didn't even get what I would even term out of control. She said the F word. And they have we have a 0 profanity policy. I'm like, good God, I can never live in a world with a 0 profanity policy. I'm like, I struggle hard enough every day. But she gets docked for that, pulled over by security, and dropped 10 points. Or a full
she
2,
got
right?
A full
Was it
2
2?
points and then put her on, or a full 1 point and then put
She
her on
got
double damage.
From
Right.
She was
on
I'm thinking like
She was a
1.0,
418 and then they dropped her to a 318.
Yeah.
But then any rating that happened after
it's a
that
double
would be
damage.
double. Yeah.
Double damage.
It was called double damage.
Yeah.
Which I'm on right now. So AfterBuzz TV is on right now. So you should rate, and subscribe.
Oh yeah,
We're on double damage. We really need your help,
I usually
guys.
do that at the end. But yes, as always, please subscribe, rate, like us.
Please.
Put whatever you want. If you want to be like Adrian, I hear it all the time. But
We need your 5 stars. I don't
we
know
like those
what
5
she's
stars.
saying. 5 stars.
I'm just being real, you guys, because I still can. So she ends up having to take the bus. She doesn't have she doesn't have enough for the bus. She has to take the
Rental
She has to
car.
rent a car. She has to rent a car.
She has to get why am I saying train? She has to get the rental car.
But she had to go to the under 3.8.
The under 3.8.
Man, what a
She had to,
stressful
like-
No,
life.
it was under 4.1 because she wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't quite
That's
that
right.
low yet. She was
Wow.
at 3.8.
So that she had to go to a different line
Yeah.
and get a different car because of her rating.
She got a car that no longer had the proper charger. She ends up getting a low rating while walking down the freeway.
I didn't even do anything.
Exactly. So
But
finally,
that's so. I just feel like that's so relevant. People dislike people for no reason.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly. That's why That's why that cabin in the woods. I'm there.
Calling your name.
So we end up jumping to her. The only person willing to give her a ride is a lady driving the garbage truck, played by, or not garbage truck, just
It's like a
regular
semi-truck,
semi truck, played by Cherry Jones. I can't think of her name in the show.
Ruth.
Ruth has a 1.7 or a 1.8
1.4. I think it was 1.4.
Something pretty
It was
low,
low.
yeah.
Was it 1.4?
I think it was 1.4.
Rating, which means she gives no F's. I'm gonna try and not curse about her rating or what people think of her. But she's also the only person willing to help little Lacie. So
Right.
Lacie gets in, she offers her whiskey or coffee, and she just lays it down for her. And then, how'd you guys feel about that? Like, there's like this
I
one
really like
beacon
that.
of truth. Yeah.
That it was just a beacon of truth, and she found that the whole system's stupid. I also, there was such a pure moment of truth that I enjoyed here, which was, do you want to hear my speech? No. No, I don't.
I was like, I appreciate that.
But how refreshing is that to like the people who say, oh, I don't have social media, and to be completely honest, if it weren't for my personal career aspirations, I definitely would
be
not have
out.
social media.
Yeah.
But that's just so refreshing to meet people and to see people who just don't care about being connected and sharing. And I love Ruth. I love that she signified that. It's like, why? What does that even mean to you? Like, she just made her question everything. I loved it.
I tend to bring out a lot of honesty from people for some strange reason. Probably because I'm pretty blunt. But
Yeah.
I was in Costco one day and there was like a lady who was handing out like samples. And I was like, how's your day going? She's like, I'm so tired. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's so nice. Because often, you know, when people say, how's your day? You just go, oh, I'm doing well. How are you?
Right.
And just you just keep going with it. But anytime you get those moments of truth from someone where they're just like, actually, I'm tired. I want to get out of here. I'm over it. That's always really nice to see. So having Ruth as that type of person and to kind of say, you know, she's told Lacie it was so easy to drop from a 4 point. She was like a 4.7 to a 1.4. She was like, you know, the amount of time it took for me to get to 4.7 and the amount of time it took for me to fall. Like, she was like, I just realized it wasn't worth it. And that's so true. And to have her husband die because he wasn't a 4.4, he was a 4.3. Like, oh my God, that killed me.
Yeah.
So eventually she ends up running into, we can touch on the Comic-Con type girls.
The Sea of Tranquility.
Yes.
Or they're the Trankheads.
The Trankheads.
Which Sea of Tranquility was a show that aired on HBO.
Oh.
I think that of the things you'd think were made up, that was
Yeah.
actually
That's so
a thing.
funny. I didn't know that. I didn't even think to look that up. Interesting.
Was it an actual animated show?
Now I have to check my work.
Like, I have to make sure I'm right. So
Yeah, 2008.
Damn.
Was it animated?
That's interesting.
No, it's live action.
So we get to that, and that's the moment where we get the call from Naomi, and Naomi says, there's no way in hell you can come to my wedding. You're a 2.6. We felt like we could have a 4.2 as a courtesy. So, of course, like, Naomi is still playing the game, even when inviting her. And that's when finally Lacie just stops giving an F. And she tells the Trankheads that I don't watch your stupid show. She hustles, gets a boys
ATV,
ATV,
off-road vehicle, whatever,
and hightails it to the wedding, ends up there, and gives the most epic speech of just like the saddest, honest speech she can possibly give about her relationship with Naomi, what Naomi meant to her, how everything is bullshit. I'm sorry, I had to drop one. And it threatens everyone, drops down to like, just, if you can get to negative.
She went to zero.
She went to straight zero.
And we learned the question, I think, the answer to the question we all had from the top of this episode.
Yeah.
Was like, what happens if you go to zero?
You go to
Jail.
And you go to jail.
The ultimate worst of society, I guess.
Jail for not being popular enough. That's real life. That's real life.
Isn't that horrible, though? And not even just popularity, like not having the resources, because initially these rankings are their resources.
Yes.
This is how they get jobs. This is how they make a living. This is how they live in nice places.
Chester lost his job because he got down to below a 2.6 or something like that.
Although, to be fair, I think he had his job. He just wasn't allowed in the building.
So
it's that.
Essentially,
I also hate the passive aggression that's inherent of this whole system
it's
of like,
completely inherent.
No, Chester, we would love to keep you on.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to enter the building.
And we can't let you. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
you're
kind
actually
of
being
crap
fired
happens.
for not showing up to work.
That happens even today. But Starbucks, they do it for real. So we get to the end and we see her in jail. And I think the ending was probably the best thing for me because I was like, yeah, you dropped those F-bombs, Lacie.
Release.
You just curse this guy out. He's good. And like the amount of glee they both had on their faces from being able to just rip each other a new one. I was like, yeah, see, that's what it's the shitty part of life, but it's also the best part of life.
Yeah.
And you can just like unleash and get like a little down and dirty. That's something I don't ever want taken away.
Me either.
Yeah, I definitely would not want to live in a world like this, but it was very worrisome to see where we're going and how much emphasis people put on social media right now. I do hope that it never grows more than how it is now.
Yeah.
Because I think this is enough. Let's
think
stop
we're-
here.
yeah. The way a person's life can get destroyed with like one hashtag is the launching point for all of this. That it's more a left thing than a right thing. That it's like a very much a like the idea of a safe space, or you can't say that, you might offend people, is where it starts. I'm not saying people shouldn't have safe spaces or that like people shouldn't mind their language. It's just like this is the extreme.
It's all together. I think when you have the type of Okay, so you have that type of social media paired with a ridiculous level of political correctness, you end up in a world like this. So that about wraps up this episode. We don't do predictions because it's an anthology episode of Black Mirror. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And where can they follow you all?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miaira Jennings.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at Steve Kaufmann. That's Kaufmann.
All right, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.